Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop. So in this video, we are going to be taking a look at this Atlas knife and tool anvil here. Now this is a knife maker's anvil specifically, and for those of you who know me or those of you who don't know me, I am not specifically a knife maker. In fact, I don't really make knives at all. But I was talking to the owner of Atlas Knife and Tool, and he wanted to take and send out one of these anvils. He wanted to support the channel this year, and so I told him I'd give it a look, and so there you go. All the cards are out on the table. I was sent one of these free of charge. I was also sent his knife making forge that he offers as well. That'll be in a different video because I need to put a lot more effort into that one, to take and show all the features and all the various things that came with it. So be on the lookout for the Atlas Knife and Tool gas forge video. If I have it done after the posting of this video, it will be linked up down in the description down below. So something I want to take and point out real quick is the fact that this is not the current model that Atlas Knife and Tool offers. I was sent this is kind of new old stock. This is what they used to be, not what they are now. The new ones actually have like nice little depressions in them that can be used as like a swedge block and a few other little features. So this particular anvil is just taken wet in the appetite, but the concept, the basic concept is essentially the same. So what do I think about this right out the box? I've asked that question. Let's get right into it. Well, there's not much to say about this little anvil. This is a chunk of steel, essentially. It's a high-grade quality steel, so it's been hardened properly, tempered properly, and it's a hard spot to beat things upon. So, boom, that's a win in my book. Some benefits of this anvil: simplicity. It's a simple anvil, it's a block. There's not much else to say about it other than that, and so it just gets the work done. And for you knife makers out there, for the most part, you're paying extra money into having horns and things like that on your anvils, whereas maybe you wouldn't have to pay all that extra money in the weights out here and not just directly centered under the the mass isn't centered completely under your hammer blows. So it checks off a win on that point. The next win that this thing checks off, I don't know if they all come with this, but this particular anvil here that I got sent, it came with a free Hardy tool. So that is a big benefit. You kind of got started off right out the gate with this Hardy tool. I have no clue what the Hardy tool's made of or how it's been manufactured, but it does hold up to cutting material off so far, or that's what I've been able to see. And it goes inside this Hardy hole. Now, this Hardy stem that got sent to me is a 5/8 inch square Hardy stem, whereas the Hardy hole in the anvil is a 1 inch square Hardy hole. So that is a downside if you do happen to get a 5/8 stem Hardy, but again, it's free, so hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? So if it's free, it works. Still, even with it being a 5/8 inch Hardy stem, when it's hammered upon, there's enough broad area that it does sit fairly nicely in the Hardy hole regardless. It kind of centers up and it works out really good. One of the benefits that you can have with this type of anvil is this will make a very nice striking surface. So if you wanted to mount this up as your main priority anvil, you could set this up as your priority, your main shop anvil, no problem. Use it all day long. It has enough usable surface area that you can get some good work done on it, blade work, things like that. But it has the added benefit as well, if you ever graduate up to a much larger anvil, say something like Olga here that this anvil is sitting on, this anvil would make a great upsetting anvil or upset block to set on the floor. It would also make a very great striking anvil to set up slightly higher, but set up to be able to work with a striker, drawing out material with top tools and things like that. This could be a very good anvil for that as well, provided that you radius off all the edges so you can prevent chip out, things like that. But that kind of versatility, it gives it a lot to be desired, even though it doesn't have the horns. Now, the downside for me, I'm an ornamental smith. I work on all sorts of organic forms, cantilever scrolls, all the time. That's kind of my business and that's my breadbasket. So something like just a plain block anvil doesn't quite get it done for me. I need something with horns and things of that nature. I will most likely use this anvil as a good upsetting block whenever I have some large bar stock I need upset. I'm going to specifically set this up on a stand a lot lower to the ground for that purpose, and this is going to come out great for that for me. Let's talk about some of the downsides. With every review, with every tool, there's pluses and there's minuses. And so don't take this as a complete dig on the company. There's no dig there on the company. This is just my opinions is what comes in. So for weigh out your pluses and minuses. We talked about the pluses about this being just a simple square anvil. Let's talk about the minuses. The minuses is this is a simple square anvil. There's not a lot else that you can do with this except stick things in the hardy hole itself. I personally like, and they do offer these as well, by the way. I will mention that. I will leave a link to the website down in the description. You go look at all the anvils they offer there. They offer, I believe it's an Alec anvil, and it's got a little short horn off to one side. That's going to work out great more for something of like my endeavors, or if I were to go to like shows or something like that where I was going to demonstrate. Having that little short horn is really a priority for me because I might want to turn a hook, or I might want to do some forge welded chain link, or show off some other blacksmithing, some other parts of the blacksmithing industry. And so therefore, that's kind of a loss for me. I'm just missing that horn. I like drawing out over my horn as well. So again, it's missing. It's kind of missing some of those feature sets for myself personally. The other downside is with this shape right here. This is not really a tail section. Now I understand why they did it. They blended that back in to really support this tail section. But since this isn't a tail, like on a normal anvil, say like a London pattern anvil, you don't have that reach ability when you're rolling something over as well. It's really hard to scroll something off when you have, square block edges and you don't have a nice undercut that you can work from. Again, if you're a knife maker, none of this will really kind of matter to you. There's also tools that you can use. They're called scroll starters, and let's see if you guys can see this or not, but they're called scroll starters, and guess what? They can be used in something like, obviously my anvil is a little bit different than this, but they can be used in the anvil for that overhang if you don't have one. So it is possible to adapt this anvil, but I wish this had a little mini tail on it and a little mini horn on it. That would have been my preference here in the workshop. So those are some downsides to think about if you're the type of smith where you may want a horn because you may want to do a bunch of hooks, or maybe you want to do some scroll work. Maybe you would benefit from being able to curl things under the tail and use that as an area to where you can hit on stuff. That might be a downside for you. The next downside I would like to take and talk about is the fact that it's an upside and it's a downside. It's an upside that they took the time to give you some nice starter radiuses to start with. It's a downside for me personally because I like grinding my own. I like choosing wholly what I want to put on my anvil edges. Whether I want to have big, nasty edges, big, sharp edges to them, or if I want big, gigantic radiuses to my edges, I like being able to make that choice myself versus having them already pre-baked into the anvil from the factory. Now that's a personal preference, and it may be your preference too, so it's something to take and consider. This one does have a very large radius on the front here, and then it has a slightly smaller radius on the side. And then the back of the heel is sharp, and so is the front side or the far side of the anvil. It has a sharp edge as well. For this particular block, I will probably dress off that edge to match this side of the anvil. The near side, I will dress the far edge to match exactly the same, and then I'll leave the tail section sharp. And reason for that being is that decision was kind of already made for me by doing one edge, and my OCD won't let that be. So my suggestion for the company, and maybe they have had different feedback over the years, my suggestion would be to leave the edges sharp and tell people to dress their own anvil edges the way they ought to be, because one, it'll reduce the time that it takes for the company to make these. Maybe that'll help them out on profit margins, and then also it gives full power and control to the smith who's purchasing it to be able to choose how they want to do their anvil edges. So that's really it for the negative things to take and say about this. It's not the hardest anvil in the world. It's not the softest anvil in the world. It's about right. It's about what you would expect out of an anvil, and that is good. You don't want an anvil that is super brittle. If you've got an anvil that's super hard like glass, it's brittle and your edges can chip out more readily on you. And then if you have too soft of an anvil, you're leaving dents all over the surface, and it's not as good of a it's not as quality of an anvil, and plus, without the hardness, you lose a good bit of rebound, and that is no good. So that's about all I've got to take and say about this great little anvil here. I do believe that this is a purchase that if you purchase this today, or tomorrow, or next week, or whenever you have the money for something like this, I do believe that this is one of those purchases that you'll be saying many years from now is a good buy, and it will retain its value for you. Again, we are blacksmiths. Whether you be a knife maker, whether you be an artistsmith, you will always find a reason to have something hard to beat upon, and this will definitely fit that bill. So thank you, Atlas Knife and Tool, for sending this out to me. If you want to see more in depth on this, I do plan on doing some comparison videos here in the future with this anvil specifically, comparing it to the Achaio anvils, comparing it with a few other anvils as well that I have on hand, doing some different testing with it, ball bearing drop tests, things of that nature, so be sure to take and check that out. And who knows, maybe I will even get some more Atlas Knife and Tool anvils in to do some side-by-side comparison testing with their features and which ones offer what, and maybe it can help you make better buying decisions that way. So be on the lookout for all that in the future. Also, be on the lookout for the gas forge video that will be coming out. It's a pretty nice little bit of kit, and I really want to do a good job of explaining all the various things that come with that. So that's it for today. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. God bless each and every last one of you, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.